I remember I was getting ready to graduate. I was out there, and it was like maybe late July or something, and I said, Terry Donahue, I'm getting ready to graduate. And he was like, yeah, you are. I said, well, what am I going to do? And he said, well, you can do a couple things. You can come out here now, start working, and get you a part-time MBA. He had every degree you could possibly have. He had a PhD, a law degree. He had everything. Big believer in education, right? And so I said, okay, well, that's my first option. He goes, and the second one is you can go to Arkansas and be the head GA on offense and get you a law degree while you're there. And that's the first time I'd ever heard law degree. I was like, law degree? What are we talking about? Law degree? I said, well, what am I going to do? He goes, well, I already talked to Coach Nutt. You're going to get that law degree. So that night I had to look up what the LSAT was so I could get into law school in 2 months, right? So.
Welcome to the Golden Eagle Insider, where it's all things Golden Eagles all the time. Get first-hand perspectives from athletes, coaches, and staff on their journeys in sports inside and outside the lines. Here's your host, Connor Clark.
Welcome into a very, very special day here at ORU Athletics. Episode number 1 of the Golden Eagle Insider coming at you right now as our brand new podcast is here. We're releasing every other week, telling you the stories of each and every single person within the ORU Athletic Department, from employees to coaches to, of course, our student athletes, to give you, the fans, a better inside look at what goes on here at the ORU Athletic Department, and so you get to know the people who are behind the scenes a little bit more. My name's Connor Clark. I'm your play-by-play voice here for ORU Athletics, and we are pleased to be joined by our athletic director here for episode number 1, Tim Johnson. Tim, thanks so much for being here today.
It's special.
It's very special.
Number 1 episode.
Number 1 episode of the Golden Eagle Insider. We're here at our Media Arts studio. If you're watching us, which is pretty sweet with this background we got going on right now as well. We're color coordinated in whites, and we're ready to talk about you for a little bit here. So I hope you're ready for that.
Connor, you're doing a great job. I'm always ready.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. So we'll get started, and we'll just kind of go broad and then kind of go down the funnel here. But you've been at ORU since 2015 and obviously worked your way up into this athletic director role. But give people a sense of what that role looked like when you first got here, and what were your main responsibilities within the athletic department moving forward.
So we did kind of a unique deal here with a transition period between Mike Carter, previous athletic director, and myself. So I had the opportunity to kind of run beside him for a little bit, and we worked together on that, knowing that we were doing that. And so being able to sit in this role for quite some time now, I think has been a benefit to us, and not a lot of athletic departments do it that way. So I think it was a different approach that kind of led to, again, not having to do a lot of things on day one, because a lot of the stuff that I was trying to do or we were trying to do had already been put into place. And so you had a lot of those relationships already built. I think that allowed us to really catapult, pretty good there on that, and do some of those special things, whether it was hiring Paul Mills or doing some of the other things that we had done to set up for some of the programs that allowed us to see some of that success in a transition a little bit quicker than maybe you would have had it been maybe a traditional thing where you had gone outside or that. The in-house thing, I think, really helped us. Mike and I worked together really well to set it up.
So you coming over from Clemson, obviously you were involved with a lot of different things with the Tigers, especially football-wise too, and kind of a big role change because obviously, A, there's no football here, and B, Clemson's Clemson, right? So what was that experience like for you, working with such a high prominent brand? And then, of course, you were there in kind of the thick of Clemson football's rise to the top, especially at the early days of the playoff. But what was that like for you? And then, of course, that transition period for, going to a place like Clemson, then, of course, coming to a place like ORU.
Well, I'll tell you this. Back then, Clemson didn't always have this massive budget everybody thinks that we always had, right? And so that's the funny thing about it is, at that time, we were trying to – it was very similar to what we were going through at ORU. We were trying to figure out how we're going to grow our budget. We were trying to figure out how we were going to have enough money in the salary pool for our assistants, how we were going to manage having a really good offensive and defensive coordinator in those situations, or that back in that time frame. And so, Coach Sweeney did things that people don't do nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. He gave up some of his salary so we could keep some of our assistants. And we were actually the first program that kind of came up with this, hey, we're going to look at this more of a three-headed monster instead of the traditional approach of we're going to give the head football coach maybe 85% of this money and he's going to be the head guy and everybody else kind of reports up to that. We knew how important the offensive and defensive coordinator were. And so at the time we had Chad Morris, who actually is back there right now. Kind of talked to Coach Morris the other day. He's going to do great. But he was the first $1 million offensive coordinator. I think coordinator at any level. I think it was the first $1 million coordinator. And so Ohio State was coming after him at the time, and then we got Brent Venables locked into that situation. So we had, again, we were paying these guys a lot of money, but we weren't paying the head coach as much. And so it was kind of a new way of looking at things. And so, but it was exciting to be part of that, how we're going to look at that, how we're going to build that up, how we're going to build those programs. You mentioned football was great. We don't have football here, but again, it was very similar in how we're building, modernizing the athletic department, the different things we're doing, strategy with the different staff members, as I talked about. One of the things we got here is we grew our staff and our coaches, and so how we were going to handle those situations and support our student athletes, right? Very similar types of build programs to what we were doing kind of for resources wise. So you're right. I mean, the scale though wasn't at that same level too. And again, man, I tell this to people all the time. It's all, leadership's the same. Managing's the same. How we're handling our issues are the same. It's just there's a lot more zeros behind it at Clemson. But again, the flip of that is we don't have the luxury to make mistakes here either. We've got to make sure that we're spending money wisely. And so I'm really proud of our staff and how we spend money and how we are efficient and what levers we pull and where we put stuff. We just don't, again, have the ability to waste dollars and waste resources the way that potentially some of our other counterparts might do. I think one of the biggest compliments we ever got here in the ORU athletic department was we have a big donor to another university that gives to us as well. And he said, man, I give this other university $1 and they turn it into a nickel. We give you guys a nickel and you turn it into $1. And so we're proud of how we build stuff, how we steward those funds. But yeah, it's very similar in the way that you're building it, but I wish we had football. No,
you want to start it?
Well, no, but it's similar builds in everywhere you are, right? It's just kind of different on the resources that you have.
Now, I feel like from an outsider's perspective, and even myself included, when I first got here, is you look at the athletic director position really anywhere, and it's, obviously the guy who's in charge of everything, but you don't really understand how much of the business side comes into play, and especially now, too, with all the money that's being thrown around everywhere. But kind of remove that curtain a little bit of how much a business side of things goes into working in sports, because it's not just showing up, watching a game, putting on an event at a game. I mean, you need the funds to do so. So how much of a part of your job goes into that too?
Well, I mean, right now it's a significant portion of it. And you're right. I mean, this has become kind of the old model, I would say, of probably Division I athletic departments was when the football coach retired or maybe the basketball coach retired, he became the athletic director, and there wasn't necessarily this need and this drive to create revenue and resources. And the arms race, so to speak, that's been with us for a while, though, that has reached an apex now of maybe a nuclear level of trying to get as much that you can out there for your programs. But absolutely, you're running you become the CEO of a multi-million-dollar business that, again, you're looking at expenses, you're looking at resources, fundraising wise, how you're driving revenue, different things that we're, sponsorships, licensing, all that has become very important. Ticketing, the sponsorships that go along with ticketing. And so it's become a situation where you're looking at that every single day, right? And the way we do it, we've got a dashboard here where we're looking at driving the revenue of all these different buckets that we've talked about here just through this small conversation. And again, you're dealing with NIL right now, and you're dealing with sponsorships right now, and all that. We're writing every contract and every NIL contract that goes through, looking at all those kind of things as well. So all that's running through that, again, you didn't have to worry about probably even 10 years ago, right? Maybe 5. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out myself here remembering, but I mean, 5 years ago, it wasn't at the level that it is now. And so now you're kind of looking at handling all that stuff in-house. So a lot of departments are bringing that in-house. And so it's coming all through you, and it bottlenecks sometimes when you're trying to handle all that. But again, we're trying to, and we've done a phenomenal job. We have a great staff here, phenomenal coaches. that put out, I think, one of the best student-athlete experiences in the entire country, and we want to keep it that way, right? And so to be able to keep it that way, to be able to stay around, stay ahead of the curve, to be able to continue to innovate those kind of things, we've got to be able to have the resources necessary to pour into those student-athletes. And to do that, you can't waste money, and you got to raise money, right? And so you can raise money a multitude of ways, internally and externally, and those are the things we've been really focused on.
Well, I promise I didn't invite you here to talk about money for, half hour. So we'll move on from the business and money part of it. You take over the AD job, and then ORU is everywhere. I mean, you talk basketball, you talk baseball. I find myself in my college apartment watching ORU games because they're making all these runs, and just being a part of that too, because you mentioned, the transition from Clemson to ORU, it's different in maybe scale, but kind of the same operation. But then all of a sudden, you kind of get that same exact publicity that you were getting at a place like Clemson. So just kind of take us through that journey. And as somebody who wasn't here for that too, I mean, just the peak height of success too, that was really unprecedented, of course, in ORU's athletic history, but really in Summit League athletic history as well.
Well, I think I was really blessed, to be in a Clemson environment, working with guys that really set into me what culture was and how you operate things. And again, I got to be with Coach Sweeney on the ground floor, coming up with certain ways we built that football program, built that athletic department. Got to meet some sports psychologists who were at the forefront of those types of situations, a guy named Bill Beswick as well. You are a makeup of your past experiences, right? And so everybody's got a unique story, which makes it incredibly awesome and that's, kind of how you hire people as well. So, but to be able to be part of that, it gets ingrained into who you are. And so I always love to say that same culture is really how we run things here. And it was awesome to see how successful it's been. And, when you're here and you're talking to a lot of people, and I think the vision initially was everybody's kind of telling you at this type of mid-major place, we want to be the next Gonzaga, right? We want to be the next Gonzaga. And that's great, but really the vision was, no, we don't want to be the next Gonzaga. We want to be the next ORU, right? And so that in 5-10 years, people can really look back and say, wow, look what they did with the convictions they have, with what they stand for, with what they were able to do. And we were able to do that, right? And so the exciting thing was being able to put the right people in place, put some resources in place. But really, I think the linchpin was the right people and the right culture that really put that together, that made people really believe that what ORU could do, right? And so it was exciting, as you mentioned, to be able to get that brand going that high, what it did for the university, what it's still doing for the university. We're able to keep a lot of those people, keep a lot of those coaches intact, a lot of people who believe in the vision and opportunity of what's going on here. But, what I love is, my family loves going to Disney World. And so, we try to – I'm going to have to do a second job here to afford it. But going to Disney World all the time, I wear my stuff all the time, right? We're incredibly proud to be at ORU, so we rep that stuff all the time. And I mean, I tell people this, and it's the truth. I'll get stopped 50 times a day at a place like Disney World with people wanting to talk about ORU, right? They either saw us in the World Series, they saw us in the basketball tournament, they saw us playing Duke, they know about us, they want to talk about it. And then when you tell them kind of what you do, they even get more excited. And they're like, man, well, what's going on? Tell us what's going on. And you're in these lines, and that's what people want to talk about. And, I mean, I could be wearing a different shirt, and I wouldn't be stopped, right? Hardly, if not any. So, I mean, to be able to still – get people excited about what's going on and talk about it. It's been a great experience.
Do you have a favorite ride at Disney World?
Yeah, man. Every time I go, it's different. I like Guardian. Everybody loves Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Right. It's pretty fast and smooth, but I like the old bumpy stuff too, like Space Mountain. You got to love that stuff too.
Oh, you would have to drag me onto one of those. I'm just not a roller coaster guy. I can't do it. But you mentioned, obviously, the brand awareness that all that winning did. And of course, it's a big part of it too. And just kind of going back to we'll start with the 2021 basketball season and that run. And obviously, a year unlike any other in college athletics with, the lack of environments, just kind of how kind of crazy the play was on the court as well. You had games getting canceled. You had X, Y, and Z, all these external factors. And then you guys go on a run in the Summit League tournament up in Sioux Falls, and then all of a sudden you're beating Ohio State, you're playing Florida and Arkansas, and it's just like you guys are shot out of a cannon. So we'll start with the Ohio State game. I guess instant reaction from you of what that experience was like. And again, a pretty unique one at that, just with everything considered.
No, I think we knew we had a really good team, had really good players. Obviously, you've got Max Asmus on that team. You've got Kevin O'Banner. You've got a lot of the guys that had been built around. And again, it's a little bit different because you win with age, in my opinion. And so we had some guys who had grown up with us, and it was a little bit more of the old model. We were able to keep them with some resources, but they were really ready to peak during that time period, and they had an all-time confidence and a culture built behind them. And what you're doing inside your four walls, and you're winning from within first, really took hold. And so you get to the Summit League tournament and there's nobody in the building, right? It's unique, right? So I think maybe that might have helped us. Instead of 12,000 Jackrabbits in the building, you've got nobody in the building, and you're kind of going up against the stands of nobody. But they still played really well during that Summit League tournament. I think we came into it as a 4 seed.
I believe you're correct.
Or something like that. And so we were – but again, it's always really bunched up in the Summit League. So you got really good teams coming in there. And I think we played really well, played a really good, I think, championship game against North Dakota State, I think it was. We had a big block at the end of the game. So we're riding high on that. And again, as you mentioned, it's just unique because a lot of the distractions were not there, right, because of COVID and how we were playing those games. And so you get to the Ohio State game, and I think we're playing in the Purdue Boilermaker Arena. So, again, but you've got people in there, and it's still spaced out a little bit, but you don't have as many Ohio State people in there. I think it was more half and half because of that, right? So,
right.
I mean, you're owning it. And when we got to the Florida game, we controlled the Florida game from a fan standpoint. It was really incredible to see how many people showed up to that game and were excited, and it felt like a home game against Florida, which is pretty unique. But anyway, you could really sense in the building, I mean, midcourt max, the things they were doing, just the confidence they had, the confidence Coach Mills had, to compete with teams that have $200+ million budgets. It was unique to see that happening and exciting as well.
Yeah, it was quite a run to watch from afar too. I mean, obviously that tournament was, again, unlike any other we'll probably ever see ever, hopefully. And just to see, I know my bracket was busted from day one. Sorry, I'll put my hand up. I'll admit that, but it was so much fun to watch. And then you kind of revisit that whole thing too with obviously the tournament in 2023, but more so with the baseball tournament in 2023, because again, all of a sudden you flick on the TV and then look who Oregon's playing in a super regional. Oh wait, it's that school who's doing good in basketball. And now all of a sudden you're one of the final 8 in Omaha too. And I think obviously that team was really special. I think it also says a lot about, and Coach Fulmer and I have talked about this a lot, but it says a lot about Coach Fulmer of just the way in which the baseball program here is run with, I just want to say, such professionalism across the board. I feel like nothing really phases the leadership there, and obviously you saw that trickle-down effect, especially in that Oregon Super Regional. It took some crazy comebacks, and, of course, just another miraculous season for another sports program here.
I think when you get people aligned, it's really special, right? And I'm talking about there's all kinds of alignment, right? I mean, you hear people say that a lot, and it's not just you and I both want to win, right? It's much deeper than that. It's, hey, this is what we believe in, right? This is how we're going to implement our culture. This is how we're going to behave. This is how we're going to act. This is how we're going to define the values that we have. This is how we're going to teach the values. This is how we're going to ingrain those into people. And then when you get a team, when that filters all the way down into a team that really believes that way, where they're ending the season with confidence at an all-time high. They've got age, they've got experience, they know they've got a bunch of people behind them, they know they're giant killers, so to speak. I mean, I'm telling you, man, like that's a special thing, and that's what really happened in that baseball team too, and that was kind of the mirror of what had happened in that 21 basketball team too. I mean, it was the same type of alignment, the same type of belief, the same type of things that you're talking about that, again, make people believe they're never really out of it. That was one of the special things about that team too. I mean, that baseball team, what was the winning streak of that baseball team?
21, 22 games.
So, I mean, for a while, ORU had and owned the longest win streaks in both men's basketball and baseball. And so, again, and that's not a fluke, right? I mean, we saw it the next year with the team that went and basketball team had the best regular season ever and played Duke in the tournament. I still think Duke should have been way higher. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. So, but you've got to get these people believing, thinking, all heading in the right direction, player-led, It's not just something that the coach says. It's stuff that the players believe all the way A and Z through the roster. They're managing themselves, so to speak. They're coming in. They're getting in extra work. They're doing the little things necessary to win. Everybody buys into that, right? I mean, that's the kind of thing that wins. And so when you get those things going mixed with talent, right? Mix in a little talent, mix in a little culture, you can really get a special vibe thing going. And I think that's what we had going. And again, what we have continuing going on right now.
Now, you talk about culture within specific teams, and obviously culture is something that the whole department has to embody at some point. And obviously, at the time we're recording this, we had the all-staff retreat yesterday, and you talked about just the overlying culture that everybody needs to buy into, whether that's basketball all the way to tennis, right? And you've got everybody that is buying into it. And obviously, there's some new faces in some places, and obviously we've had some unprecedented successes in other areas, i.e. Jordan Wenger's season in the high jump last year, placing 4th overall. You had Coach Anderson take over a basketball program on the women's side that did very, very well. Obviously, Coach Barnett taking over the men's program and trying to rebuild that one as well. But just kind of that overlying blanket of culture that everybody, whether you're coaching a team or you're trying to sell a sponsorship, how do you go about that as the athletic director and, getting that buy-in and having it yield results?
Well, I think it's, leadership at its core, and we talked about this, is just the transfer of belief, right? There's a lot of books written about it. There's a lot of things that people like to say about it. But that's all it is, man. You are getting people to believe in what you're wanting them to do, right? In a situation where you're accomplishing that through people, and you have to do it through them. You can't do it all yourself, right? It'll kill you. And so you've got to have people believe in a certain aspect of what you're talking about to where they're going to be able to take that and really have ownership of it, right? And I think at ORU we have a really unique way of implementing that culture, right? And a lot of that stuff we came up with and learned at Clemson. And so it's exciting to see that what they're still doing, right, as a lot of the guys that we knew there are still there and doing a great job. And we have this really unique bond with them as well. And so it's fun to talk to Coach Sweeney and those type of guys about that thing. But again, what we have here that's really special and unique too is it's easy to get in silos, right? A lot of these departments are in silos. They're in great facilities that are all located all across campus, and not everybody sees each other all the time. And so to get to be able to get in a room like that, talk about that, we have people who support each other, go to each other's games, are cheering people on. And I think when you get that culture and, again, that shared belief, when it filters in through the players and the things we talk about, which how we teach effort, attitude, and belief, we talk about being all in, all these different things that we talk about, and how we install that and really get our values, I think, taught from, from highest to lowest, gets people believing in a situation where, it doesn't matter what you are, you're out there blowing up Big Eli and you're running the baseball game and you're out there collecting rings and you're doing all that kind of stuff. Everybody's all bought into that vision and they're willing to do it, whether it's in the trenches or whether they're in front of a camera, right? And so I think that has led to seeing success in our men's and women's soccer programs, right? That's been success in our men's and women's golf programs. We've seen some incredible success in cross country, some incredible success, as you mentioned, in the high jump. We're talking first team All-American type stuff, right? We have several people in the track program who can win national championships if the thing goes their way. And so, you get this historic success with basketball, both men's and women's basketball. You get some historic success with baseball going on, right? I could go on and on about the success we've had in these programs that have led to some really exciting stuff. And the other thing I like to say too is, we did it without the great facilities, right? A lot of that success was done before these great facilities were built, and that's going on people power, right? That's going on the secret sauce is the people, and it's how I think that we come together, how we operate that culture, that atmosphere, right, which is the standards that we have and how we create and how we try to make people buy into that all the way from the student athlete to the manager to the GA level.
You talk about doing it without the facilities. Now you're doing it with the facilities. And, obviously everybody knows about the Mike Carter Athletic Center, gorgeous facility for the offices, practice gyms, weight room, the whole nine, new turf at the baseball facility, really everything that's been done at Chapman Park, too, with the locker rooms and the players' lounges and the coaches' offices. And then, of course, we'll be debuting the new turf field at soccer here in a couple of weeks as well, which has been a game changer. You mentioned the successes both of those programs have had. The women last year winning the regular season. Obviously, Coach Ryan Bush has been here for quite some time, and he played here. He's done a lot of really good things here as a coach, and that's got to be exciting for them too, because you're kind of widespreading the wealth, if you will, with those facilities. And again, it's kind of no man left behind here, right? Like everybody's all in this in one pot, and of course you did it without the facilities. Now imagine what you can do with said facilities, and obviously that's happening here.
No, and I think that's been one of the ORU's growing like crazy, right? And so to be a part of that, to be able to have another good story along the university, again, we're here to further the university's mission. Every athletic department should be doing that, and so for us to be able to support what ORU's doing with our own great story has been awesome, right? And then you mentioned it, when you're doing those types of things, a lot of this success has been built off the backs of these incredible supporters we have, the city of Tulsa, people believing in ORU, people believing in the mission, coming together. You can't do that, right? I mean, we say a lot, the power's in the collective, and to have those guys come together and do that, and to see that athletic center being built, to see the Maybe Center get renovated, to see what we've done, the volleyball facilities, I think, are among the best in the country. To be able to give soccer now, I think, United Turf came in and really worked with us to give soccer what we think is the best turf in all the country right now. So they're going to bring people in to see it. It's going to be something exciting to give them. And again, as your soccer programs get better, they tear up the grass, right? And so, I mean, they were so good, they're having to practice off-site at turf fields because they're just tearing up our facility so much. And so to give them something now that's as good as the World Cup, I think is really exciting. You mentioned baseball. I mean, I'm not sure. I know I'm biased, and you're biased too. But that baseball facility is as nice as anywhere in the country. I mean,
I would say that unbiasedly, I think, as well. I mean, just being able to walk through there on a pretty consistent basis, it is up there with some of the best that I've seen.
So, you're walking around in a weight room that is among the best. I mean, it's among the best in the country. Academic centers that are among the best in the country. I mean, our guys show up on campus, our girls show up on campus, and they've got – and the pride goes through them as well when they're walking through these facilities and they're seeing what they have access to, and you're walking around and what ORU can provide, right? I mean, we're up there with anybody, and that's exciting.
Now, and winning aside here, but as the athletic director of Oral Roberts, you're in a state that obviously locates Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and TU. 3 football programs, which, again, when you talk about what's king in popularity of sports, football is definitely up there. So how do you navigate that as the man in charge of the athletic department with 3 other universities within your own state, one of them within your own city, and still try and make a name for yourself outside of course, the results that we've seen on the baseball field and on the basketball court?
I think that the good and bad for ORU is that there's no football. Right, and so you mentioned it. A lot of people in the state really care about football. But the good thing is, too, that football is really expensive, right? And it's really hard to keep a good football program going. And so ORU as an institution doesn't necessarily have to worry about funding that behemoth right now and what's going on. And so we're able to focus on a fewer number of sports, the marquee ones, of course, being the men's and women's basketball teams and baseball, and trying to keep those and the other ones, too, at a national stage. But again, because you don't necessarily have a football program that's pulling in some of the resources necessary to run a really good football program. And if we're going to run something, we want to run it at an extremely high level. That helps us, right? The other thing I think helps us is we are smaller. We're more nimble. We can do things that maybe some of the other ones can't. As a private institution, we can change things pretty quickly. We can get people involved. They can get a lot of our donors feel like it is a family, right? We do things a little bit differently. And so they're able to be part of that. They're able to know our coaches, know our student athletes, feel involved. They have more of a feeling of touch that maybe you don't get at a bigger department that has so many student athletes and so many. Again, you throw that well, you throw a penny into the well, some of those other ones, you're not really sure if it's going to make a sound. You throw that same amount of money at us, you're making a really big difference, right? And then you can see that play out, right, on the same stage that they're playing out, right? And so it's exciting to go out there. And, again, we played Oklahoma State at Tulsa Drillers Stadium this year. Had a great crowd. We're able to beat them. It was an awesome night for ORU. It was kind of a home night for us because we have such a good relationship with the Tulsa Drillers. That's an experience that, man, I mean, you just can't have that everywhere, right? And so to be able to compete with them on that stage, I think, is because we're able to allocate resources differently. I think we spend resources a little bit differently too. As I mentioned, we don't have the ability to be we've got to be efficient with everything we have, right, down to the last dollar. I mean, that is whatever, how we're traveling, how we're busing, how we're eating, everything, right? So we have an eye on that, and I think that helps us to be a little bit different. And then, again, it's just a little bit different, right? I mean, we're able to sell and go out to a lot of donors. And I tell them all the time, like, I might not be your first favorite team, but I can be your second favorite team, right? And so we've had a lot of those believe in us to where, okay, man, I can make a pretty big impact over here by giving them some resources and see the eternal impact that's being made. So I think that's been how we've navigated it too in this environment.
And of course, too, I mean, here it's a little bit different than the other 3 schools in the state because you have the faith aspect along with it too, and obviously that's really attractive to a lot of people, not only just athletes but to just students in general that want to come here. And obviously they can grow academically, they can grow athletically, but they can also grow in that spiritual realm as well. And we've seen a lot of alumni too from this university go on and kind of apply that to their lives, whether that's in business, athletics, you name it, and it's done really, really well for them too. So I think that's kind of the special thing too here is how unique that is in comparison to the other schools within the state.
Yeah, again, we changed kind of our mission up several years ago. We want every kid leaving our department with a diploma in one hand, a championship ring on the other, and a spirit-empowered heart ready to change the world for Jesus, right? And so when people buy into that vision, that's a big vision that we're trying to accomplish. We want to be this process that you put somebody in, they come through our department, and when they leave, man, they're ready through that mission to really make an impact in the world. And so it's been awesome to see our coaches buy into that, who are on the day-to-day, to see our assistant coaches, our staff, our support staff, everybody's bought into that, right? And you get some really good turnout and some really good kids who believe in that same way too, and have them develop in a way that when they again, like I said, when they get out of here, they are making a big impact. And you got people buying into that, right? I mean, they buy into that, and when you win on the highest stage, I mean, it's people can see what you stand for. And Coach Mills did a great job, Coach Barnett, some of these people, Coach Fulmer, that have gotten on that stage of really representing ORU in a great way. And so we're so proud of them. And again, we mentioned this before a little bit in this talk here, is we wanted to be our own case study, right, where people could look back and go, man, look what they did with the convictions they have, with what they stand for, with being proud of it and wearing it on their sleeve, to a situation that you're making an impact, not just in these kids, but nationally and over the world too, based on that.
So before we get you out of here, we'll kind of ask you a couple of questions that are fun, more about you. But you went to Arkansas, graduated in 2005. You're a part of the Arkansas Bar Association. I don't know how many people know that about you. So you are a lawyer, technically. What was the inspiration to kind of go that route? And was, any prior interest to that before college, or was that just kind of a, hey, this is interesting, I'm going to go do this?
No, man, look, you got to have good mentors, right? And so I've been super blessed in my life to have some really good mentors. I got introduced to Terry Don Phillips, who was the athletic director at Clemson, and I got to be really good friends with him, and he's the one who really believed in me and gave me a chance. And so he was an Arkansas guy as well, and I had transferred to Arkansas to be on the football staff with Coach Houston Nutt. So I was got blessed to be kind of an assistant football coach on that staff. And over the summers, I would go and work for Terry Don at Clemson. Had a great experience there. He'd give me stuff I had no business being in charge of. But you got to have people believe in you, right? And so to allow me to grow, to allow me to do stuff like that, I really appreciated him really representing ORU in a great way. And so we're so proud of them. And again, we mentioned this before a little bit in this talk here, is we wanted to be our own case study, right, where people could look back and go, man, look what they did with the convictions they have, with what they stand for, with being proud of it and wearing it on their sleeve, to a situation that you're making an impact, not just in these kids, but nationally and over the world too, based on that.
So before we get you out of here, we'll kind of ask you a couple of questions that are fun, more about you. But you went to Arkansas, graduated in 2005. You're a part of the Arkansas Bar Association. I don't know how many people know that about you. So you are a lawyer, technically. What was the inspiration to kind of go that route? And was, any prior interest to that before college, or was that just kind of a, hey, this is interesting, I'm going to go do this?
No, man, look, you got to have good mentors, right? And so I've been super blessed in my life to have some really good mentors. I got introduced to Terry Don Phillips, who was the athletic director at Clemson, and I got to be really good friends with him, and he's the one who really believed in me and gave me a chance. And so he was an Arkansas guy as well, and I had transferred to Arkansas to be on the football staff with Coach Houston Nutt. So I was got blessed to be kind of an assistant football coach on that staff. And over the summers, I would go and work for Terry Don at Clemson. Had a great experience there. He'd give me stuff I had no business being in charge of. But you got to have people believe in you, right? And so to allow me to grow, to allow me to do stuff like that, I really appreciated him. And I remember I was getting ready to graduate. I was out there, and it was like maybe late July or something. And I said, Terry Don, I'm getting ready to graduate. And he was like, yeah, you are. I said, well, what am I going to do? And he said, well, you can do a couple things. You can come out here now, start working, and get you a part-time MBA. He had every degree you could possibly have. He had a PhD, law degree. He had everything. Big believer in education, right? And so I said, okay, well, that's my first option. He goes, and the second one is you can go to Arkansas and be the head GA on offense and get you a law degree while you're there. And that's the first time I'd ever heard law degree. I was like, law degree? What are we talking about? Law degree? I said, well, what am I going to do? He goes, well, I already talked to Coach Nutt. You're going to get that law degree. So that night I had to look up what the LSAT was so I could get into law school in 2 months, right? So that's why I got in there. That's why I did it. I didn't have the vision of what it would do. I remember getting in there in the first 3 months thinking, what have I done to myself, right? But then you get through it, you get out of that, and right now, man, it's the number one toolkit in my box, right? Or the number one tool in my toolkit. And so to be able to have that, I really appreciate Terry Don pushing me and making me do that because it made me better as a professional and something I wouldn't trade for anything.
All right, so last thing here, a part of this podcast, we want to give people an inside look at the Mike Carter Athletic Center on a day-to-day basis, right? I have a little bit of a bone to pick with you because last year, okay, backstory, big Cubs fan here. Corey Barnett, our head basketball coach, big Cubs fan. He sticks a Milwaukee Brewers thing on his office door to mess with KB. Are you actually a Brewers fan, or was that just to get a rise out of him? Because I think it worked.
Dude, I'm a Brewers fan.
Since when?
Look, I
didn't know that about you.
So, I got a lot of baseball experience as well, right? Played that a lot. And so growing up, I don't even know how this happened. I think I walked into a locker or a what's it called in the mall?
A Foot Locker?
Foot Locker. So I walk into a Foot Locker, right? I think I'm a kid, and I look up, and I like this purple jersey. It said Bucks. And so it was Glenn Robinson's jersey. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, as a little kid there, all of a sudden I'm a Milwaukee fan, I'm a Brewers fan, I'm a Bucks fan. Never really made it up to the Packers, but
thank goodness for that.
Kept with those two. And so I was a fan, Brewers fan, my whole kind of childhood growing up, and kind of jumped around with some of the guys. I was a baseball agent for a while, so jumped around with some of those teams, but did grow up a Brewers fan.
Favorite Brewer of all time?
John Jaha.
John Jaha. I don't even know if I know who that is.
I can tell you, if you think I'm lying, the third baseman for my team that I loved, the third baseman was Jeff Cirillo. The shortstop was Fernando Vina. The first baseman was John Jaha. One of the pitchers was Jose Mercedes. The catcher was, I can't remember his name. He got thrown out of a lot of games.
It seems pretty on brand for Brewers. But, again, you're talking to a Cubs fan, so a little bit biased there. I was more familiar with the Ricky Weeks days. That was kind of Ryan Braun, but we don't need to talk about Ryan Braun.
That's after my days.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. But anyway, thought we should bring that up because we had to air our grievances here on the air, of course, between Cubs and Brewers. But that'll do it for us here on episode number 1 of the Golden Eagle Insider. We thank
By the
you
way,
so
I
much.
think the Brewers are the best team in the league right now.
We don't also need to talk about that. Maybe by the time this podcast comes out, that'll change.
Oh, yeah, the date could change. But
Cubs are hot right now. Best record in the NL since June 11th. Again. Okay, we'll put a button on it. But that'll do it for us here on episode number 1 of the Golden Eagle Insider. Big thanks to Tim Johnson for joining us here for our first episode ever. Once again, we'll be coming at you bi-weekly. So once every other week, we'll be talking to employees, coaches, and, of course, our student athletes here at Oral Roberts, giving you, the fans, an inside look at the Mike Carter Athletic Center and what goes on in our day-to-day basis. So, Tim, thanks so much, and hopefully we'll be talking to you on here soon.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That'll do it for us here on the Golden Eagle Insider. We'll talk to you on episode number 2 in a couple weeks. Thanks so much.